In this video, I want to talk about the Group Self-Select tool, and this is a fabulous tool. If you've created some small groups and you want students to have the ability to pick and choose which small group they want to join, you want to use Group Self-Select. Just a couple of tips before we dive in and show you the steps. First, I would recommend that you go into As You Learn as the teacher and you create the small groups that you want students to join. There is an option for students to actually create their own groups, but most faculty want to avoid that kind of chaos, and these are the groups and you get to pick. Another thing to be aware of, if you already have some groups in play, and you may, if you have MetaLinks, you've already got some section groups, you're going to also want to use groupings, but I'll show you that later. So now I'm in As You Learn. So my first step, I want to make sure I have those small groups that I want students to choose from. So I'm going to click Participants. I'm going to go under the gear and go to Groups. And so right now I've already got some existing groups. So maybe you have links to your sections with the 101 and the 102 section. But then I also have some small groups, and the small groups are what I want students to select from. If you haven't created groups before, you basically just come down here to Create Group, type in the name, scroll down and hit Save Changes. Now, if you have a lot of groups, and for this Group Self-Select, I don't want them adding to the 101 and the 102. It's really just these authors. Then you're going to need to use groupings. I'm going to go over this quickly, but you can always follow up with your IT consultant. Basically, you create a grouping name and hit Save Changes. So I've created the grouping, but I haven't added the small groups that I want to use. So on this Groupings tab, I'm going to click this icon. I'm going to select only these particular groups. I'm going to click back to Groupings. What the grouping does is when I use Group Self-Select, you don't get to pick all my groups, only this subset of groups that I decided. So I'm going to navigate back to the main course page, go under the gear, and turn editing on. Click Add an Activity or Resource, and then in the list of things, look for Group Self-Selection, and click Add. Here, I'm going to give this a name. You can also write a description, but I'm going to skip that piece. Here, I can actually set a deadline that I want you to pick a small group, but I want you to do it by a particular date. So if I click Enable by Open Until, here I can select a date in the future. This step can be critical. Select groups from grouping. So again, if you have it to all groups, they could add themselves to any group. But I created that grouping, so I'm going to select that. Here I'm deciding how many people go in each group. What's the max number I want? And I can enter any number I like there. And the max number of groups for them to participate in, maybe I want to limit it. You're only in one group. Under General Permissions, there are a number of options. I'm going to recommend that many faculty like to uncheck Participants can create groups. They really want to limit it to the ones that are pre-created so they can join and they can leave, so that way they can pick and choose. Scrolling down here, just go to the bottom of the page and click Save and Return to Course. Now I'm actually going to log in as one of my students so you can see how this activity appears to them. Logging in as a student, the student would click the link, pick your group. Up here it gives them a reminder how long I have to pick my group. And so here I can see how many people are allowed in each group. If I do hit the maximum number, the Become a Member of link goes away. As a student, I can also already see who's in a group. And then if I pick one, I just select Become Member of. You get a confirmation message. And now I've added myself to that group. I hope this helps.